Howdy, everyone. I'm just doing a little test here of my rig. I've got a new boom mic set up here as well as a camera. It's a Logitech. I gotta look. I believe it's a G 615. Let me look here. HD webcam C615. And the mic here is actually a Samsung Q2U hooked into a Behringer UM2 single XLR input going to USB in. The only filtering I've got on any of this stuff is a filter to remove noise on the camera and a filter to remove noise on the microphone, and that's it. I do have one Elgato key light up here to offset the light coming from our ceiling fan to kind of remove the shadows. So it's all just playing around. So bear with me. Give me feedback if you can hear it good. If you can't hear it good, if the picture sucks, whatever. I'm going to do a transition here to a blog that I'm working on, which is the other part that I'm playing around with. Um, this blog is it's blog.oldsaltyt.net. Eventually it's going to be saltyoldgeek.com, and I'm going to remove my WordPress site and go to this. I'm going to it for a couple reasons. One is I want to get away from WordPress with all the issues that they've been having, security issues, various things. Um, but also because, um, well, here, I'll pull it up. So this blog is a statically generated blog using the Hacker blog theme um, that you can find on GitHub. It's a Jekyll theme. Jekyll is I believe it's JavaScript or Node.js that converts what's called Markdown into something that's readable. If you were to see the raw Markdown for this, and I'll see if I can pull that up, you would basically see. Let's pull it up here. Posts. Raw. So this is what it looks like in its raw form. Um, there are some cheat sheets out there, but basically most of this is denoting whether this is going to be a H1, H2 header, whether it's going to be in lists. Here we've got a code block lined out with the code inside of it for Python. So when we go over here, you have scrollable code. If you were to put this on, say, a mobile site, you'd actually be able to scroll back and forth in this code block. And it also gives you all this highlighting. So if you know the kind of code language that this is, even if you don't, you'll get some idea of what's what. But if you know what the language is, this will make a lot more sense and help the code kind of jump out at you. This blog here is for a sensor, which I happen to have. We'll see if I can get it to show up on camera good. This sensor right here, this is using a DHT22 temperature and humidity sensor and a Adafruit Trinket M0, which is using an ATSAM 21 D processor in it. These are parts and parts of open source projects that you can find out on the internet, so it's nothing terribly special. What I am working on is making that board converged into one single board, um, possibly two, um, for sensors to go in home server racks and in small business server areas to monitor the environment of temperature and humidity, and be able to supply to dashboards like this one here, which gives you the temperature and the humidity, and it gives you that over time. You can also set up alerts for emails. So for somebody that wants to do it on a relative cheap, you get an API key. You come over here. Um, you build a script based on this kind of sample polling code where you can upload it to Adafruit or um, any other service that you want to use to do that and get your alerts and be able to monitor your system. The end goal is for me to have a wired version and a wireless version. Right now, this is plugged into a Raspberry Pi 4 via USB, but you could plug it into your own server that you have at home, be it Linux, Windows, or your desktop computer. You can run a script on it and it will pull that information and then upload it to the site. And if you see right here, uh, this section of code is actually the code that goes into the sensor itself. With some error checking and error handling and a little bit of sanitization. And that's the beauty of that chip is you can do it fairly easily. If I can get it to work, I'm going to eventually make a PC board where most of the components are on there. It'll have programming headers so I can program the chip, which is where I'm kind of stuck right now. Um, I know I keep saying a lot. You'd be able to eventually just have this on one board, plug it in USB or plug it into USB power, and have it connect wirelessly with a little configuration utility to just send that data up to wherever you want it sent to. In this case, I'm sending it to io.adafruit.com for a dashboard, but you can use, there's a couple other services for data collection that would do this for you too. Or if you're savvy enough, you could build an email alert and basically just have it log it and not even worry about the data unless it gets above a certain point, and then it just sends it off to you. Uh, just depends on what your needs are. I kind of wanted to monitor to see how the Nest system was working here. And this project actually came out of originally using an analog TMP36 and an Arduino, because where I was working at the time, we had a HVAC system that was horrible. It had very wild swings on it. The dampers control was not very good. And I kind of wanted to watch and see, well, okay, just how bad was this? So I built it, something for me to tinker with. And it actually turned out to be somewhat helpful because if we had HVAC issues, I could pull it up and pull up my CSV or the database that I was running at the time and go, yep, yeah, here you go. That's what it's doing. This is why we're having issues, and the HVAC guys at least could see it and say, okay, there really is an issue here. But this turned into a project for helping out somebody I work with, a friend of mine, who's got their own home server cabinet with some Ubiquiti gear in it and a few other things, and they're not doing much different. They're running it through a Raspberry Pi. We started out running the headers directly through the Raspberry Pi, and then figured out, well, if I can make this sensor modular, why not? It's one less thing somebody has to try and drill holes in a case and run wires to, and yada yada yada. And then eventually I'll be putting on a little airlift board and seeing if I can make it completely wireless. But anyway, it's testing out my new rig, showing off my project, and kind of talking about some stuff that'll be coming up here with working on the sensor, working on the blog. Eventually, you'll be able to go to the blog. You can go to blog.oldsaltet.net now and see the projects as I'm working on them, as I get time to edit these and put these up. But eventually, everything's going to move over for the projects to saltyoldgeek.com, where I can show off the projects I'm working on. Also, kind of talk about the robotics team that I'm mentoring, and various other things. If I work on a computer system where I find something particularly interesting or helpful, or if you go to Salty Old Geek on YouTube, you can see some of my videos for teardowns, especially for Chromebooks. If you work in education or know somebody that works in education, take a look at those. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see the teardowns on some 300Es, and eventually I'll have a video on a teardown for a Lenovo 14E, and referencing a couple other videos that are already out there, and some things to watch out for, teardowns, my thoughts on build quality, things like that. Uh, so I look forward to doing more of these and getting it out.